Hey guys, so today I will be demonstrating on how to integrate the DevSpace CaaS API or the Charging as a Service API into your application. So I'll be using the same coffee shop application that we've been building so far throughout the webinar series. So today we will be adding a new function to this app that will allow the customers to buy their coffee by simply accessing the USSD menu for the coffee shop app. So let me open up the code we have written so far. So if you guys watched our webinar on the USSD APIs, I think you will remember the session manager class that we wrote. So using this class, we showed you how to traverse between USSD screens using the USSD operation types and user inputs. And also, we showed how to register a user to our app using the DevSpace subscription APIs. Anyway, since the focus of this demo is on the charging APIs, I have refactored the code a little bit and have moved the subscription part onto a separate method called register user, which you see here. And also, I have listed down the USSD screens we will be using and a list of tags that will act as identifiers for each screen. So the first is the welcome screen. It says welcome to the coffee shop, press 1 to register, 2 to order, and 3 for feedback. And I have the identifier for that screen here as welcome. And the second is the order screen. The order screen lists down the items on the coffee shop menu. So it will say press 1 for cafe latte, 2 for cappuccino, and so forth. And the identifier for that screen is right here. It's the order screen tag. So we have a couple of more other screens for each coffee type as well. Like if the user selects cappuccino, he will see a menu that says cappuccino, price 75 rupees, press 1 to buy. And we have a similar screen for cafe latte as well. Also, I have changed the get next USSD screen method a little bit to make it easier to traverse between these screens. So first, we have an if-else statement that checks if the USSD operation is MO init, and if it is, it will show the welcome screen. Or if it's MO cut, it will move on to the else statement. And inside this else statement, we check what kind of option the user selected on each screen. So on welcome screen, we check if he selected 1, which was for register. So what we've done there is we have used this concurrent hash map called sessions and set that user's session to the register screen tag, since it will be the next screen that he gets. And after that, I have called the register user method that handles the subscription part. And similarly, if the user selects option 2 on the welcome screen, which is for coffee order, I set the user's session to order screen tag and returns the string which contains the order screen's content. And similarly, I have written here how the operations for the register screen should work. Or else, if it's the order screen, we have option 1 that would lead to the cafe latte screen, or option 2 that will lead to the cappuccino screen. And finally, we have the else if statements for the coffee type as well. So if you look at the part for the cafe latte screen, you will see option 1, which was for buying coffee, returns a to do. So that is where we will have to integrate our charging API. So that once the user selects option 1 to buy, he will be charged from his mobile account. Now you must be thinking, that's a lot of if-else statements. So I have to say upfront that this might not be the best way to handle multiple USSD screens. But since our webinars are joined by advanced programmers as well as beginners to Java coding, we believe it is best to keep this simple so that everyone will understand our APIs perfectly. But we will share some of our codes that have followed best practices for the advanced programming folks out there. Anyway, getting back to the code. So I'll be writing a method called purchase coffee, which would handle the business logic behind the coffee purchasing process. So first, what we need is a way to charge the user the amount of the coffee type he selected. So this is where the DevSpace CaaS API comes into play. So the CaaS API has something called the direct debit request, which would allow us to charge the customers the specific amount we want from their mobile account. So for this case, I could charge a customer 50 rupees when he purchases a cafe latte using the direct debit request. So let me go ahead and create the direct debit request object. And much like the previous DevSpace API request objects, direct debit also requires us to set the application ID and the application password. And since we are charging from the customer's mobile account, we have to set the subscriber ID, which is the mobile number, as well. And then the charging amount. So I'll take two parameters into my purchase coffee method as mobile number and amount, and I'll set those values in these fields. And finally, we have to set something called the external transaction ID. Now this transaction ID is something that you as the developer has to generate from your application end. It is used to map the charging request with its response. So if you were to inquire anything about a transaction that happened from your application, you can use this as an ID for that particular transaction. Just make sure to make it something unique for each request. So for this demo purpose, I'll set the current time in milliseconds as the external transaction ID. Alright, now that we have set all the required parameters for the request object, we need a request sender to send it. So I will use the CaaS API's charging request sender for this. And I will set the URL as http localhost 7000 CaaS direct debit, because that's the URL for the simulator, and since it's hosted locally. So when you construct a URL, there will be a malformed URL exception, so we have to handle that. So I'm going to enclose this with a try catch. Okay. Now I will call this request sender object's sending charging request method and pass my previously created direct debit request object to that. So when I call this method, there will be another exception that we need to handle. It's called the SDP exception. So let me add another catch clause to handle that as well. Alright, now the request sending part is completed. So now we have to handle the responses status. Similar to how we handle the subscription API subscription response, I will assign this sending charging request returning object to charging response. And then I will type if S1000. Now S1000 is the success status code for a transaction. So I'll say if S1000 is equal to charging response.get status code. Then inside that, I will have my business logic for the success scenario. So for the moment, let me return, you have successfully bought the coffee. You will shortly receive an SMS with the order number. And also, another important status code to handle and show a meaningful message is when a customer doesn't have sufficient balance in his mobile account. So we can use the status code E1308 for that. And I will return the message, you do not have sufficient credit to buy the coffee. Alright, now we have completed most of the code. What we need now is to complete the business logic that happens when the transaction is success. First and foremost, each order should have an order number that the customer and the coffee shop owner can refer to. So for this demo, I'll just create a random number less than 1000 and assign it to a string called order number. Alright, so now I wanted to do two things when the transaction is successful. First, send an SMS to the customer with his order number, which he can refer to when he's picking up his coffee. Second, I want the order to be saved onto a page where the coffee shop owner can view. So for the first one, I have this send order confirmation SMS method I have written, which takes the mobile number and the order number as parameters. So it will send an SMS empty to the subscriber's mobile with the order number. You can refer our first webinar on the SMS API on how to handle SMS sending. So let me just call the send order confirmation SMS method inside my if statement for the success scenario. Alright, now I need to save this order where the coffee shop owner can view it. So similar to how we save the subscriber feedback to the coffee shop application, I will use a hash map for the coffee order as well. So I have this coffee orders hash map which takes a string as a key. This will be the subscriber ID, and it takes a coffee order object as the value. So the coffee order class I've already created. Let's take a look at what it has. So it has the order number, the type of coffee, the quantity, for which this demo I'll set it as 1, and the amount. So that's our coffee order object. So let me get back to the coffee order service class where I set each order with its values. So you see here, I call the coffee orders hash map, and I put the subscriber ID as the key, and I create a new coffee order object and pass the order number, the coffee type, the quantity, and the amount. So now let's take a look at the JSP page which I've created to iterate over this map. So it's called the view orders JSP. So it simply has a table with 5 columns for the subscriber ID, order number, coffee type, quantity, and amount. And I've used the coffee orders hash map to iterate over and fill its rows. Alright, so now it's just a matter of calling the coffee order service set order method inside my if statement for the transaction success scenario. Okay, and I pass the necessary parameter values. Alright, done. Now let's take this for a test run with the simulator. So before starting the test run, I will go to DevSpace Simulator's CaaS tab, and I will set the balance for requests as 150 rupees. So that I will have enough mobile credit for this simulation process. Alright, after that you need to make sure the MO receiver URLs for SMS and USSD are set correctly. If all is well, select MO init as the USSD operation type and set number for the USSD menu. For this demo it will be #678# and press send. Alright. Now you see the initial screen for the coffee shop application. So I'm going to select option 2 for order. So let me select the USSD operation as MO_CUNT and service code as 2. Okay, now you see the coffee shop order menu with the 2 coffee types. I will select cappuccino. So that is number 2. And in the next screen, I will select 1 to buy. Alright, now it says my purchase was successful and I should be getting an SMS with the order number. So if I check the SMS tab of the simulator, yeah, there I see the message that I received with the order number. And also if I check the CaaS tab for my current balance, you'll see it says 75 rupees. So I started out with 150 rupees in my account, and the cappuccino was 75 rupees, so that leaves me with another 75 rupees. Alright, cool. Now let's try making a purchase from another mobile number. So I'll be quickly following the same procedure as I did before. Alright, the purchase was successful. You can see the SMS that was received. Okay, now as a coffee shop owner, I would want to view these orders. So let's check the view orders JSP to see if they have been saved there. Alright, there you go. Both orders have been saved with their respective details. Alright guys, So that wraps up the demonstration for the DevSpace CaaS API. Thank you all for watching.